What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the German Bear Podcast. And today we got the first episode of the 2023 Chicago Bears Free Agency Outlook. And this will be a series about the Chicago Bears' potential free agent targets. Last year I only made one big episode, but this year I want to focus on more players, want to give you more names and more guys that I like potentially joining the Chicago Bears in 2023. So therefore I decided to cut it up into position groups. We'll do a wide receiver episode, which is today, then it follows a offensive line episode, then a D-line episode, and then we got a sleeper episode where we talk about some lesser but also very important needs for the Chicago Bears heading into this year's off season. And with that being said, let's not waste any more time and start off with the first episode, like I said today, talking about the wide receivers. And with this year's wide receiver class, like I said, it's not super strong. It's offering a lot of talented players that could potentially look for higher roles at certain teams and certain systems. But overall, you don't have that wide receiver one, clear-cut wide receiver one in free agency that everybody wants to go after. I think there's some players like Jacoby Myers that could be interesting. But today, I want to talk about 5 wide receivers that I personally like a lot in this free agency because of their price, because how they could probably be valued by teams and also what they could bring to the Chicago Bears in 2023. So only 5 receivers, 3 younger options, and 2 veteran options as well, which is always important too. And with that being said, I want to start off with the first guy that I want to talk about today, which is DJ Chark, formerly loaned for the Detroit Lions at the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with DJ Chark, this is probably the guy that I'm mostly interested in 2023's free agency because DJ Chark is a 6'4", 198-pound speed demon. He played for the Lions last year, struggled with some injuries, which could certainly lower his price, but was still pretty productive. He appeared in 11 games, had 30 receptions for 502 yards and 3 touchdowns, and had an average yard of reception of 16.7, which I think ranks in the top 5 of the entire NFL. Now, he did have a rough start and, like I said, had a pretty long injury stretch in 2022, but before that, he was also a very productive receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially in 2019, hauled in 73 receptions, 1,008 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He also missed a big amount of time in 2021, though, for the Jacksonville Jaguars, only played in 4 games. So with DJ Chark, I think you got a very attractive wide receiver at 6'4", who just has great length and elite, 4.3 speed to him as well. So from a physical and athletic standpoint, you get a very high upside player who is still, forgot to mention that, only 26 years old. He will turn 27 during the season in September, but that's still a young player that you can give a bigger contract out to, especially after he just ascended after that injury last year for the Lions. Really had a solid rest of the season, racking up a lot of yards, and it's just a very good deep threat for any offense. I think in the NFL would appreciate having a DJ Chark on the table. Now, for his contract, he's projected to make probably $9.5 million per year, according to SpotRack. They said a proper contract for him in this free agency probably would be around a 3-year deal, including 28 or around 28 million, which would cause the outcome of 9.5 million average. I think he could make a bit more after the season with the Lions. He made he signed a 1-year, $10 million deal last year to play with the Lions. So I think in this especially weak wide receiver free agency class, I think DJ Chark's value could up a little bit, and I think I would be, especially with the Bears cap situation, willing to pay that much for him. But I think a 3-year deal, especially at the age in season, then 27 would be a good value deal overall. And I would definitely love DJ Chark next to Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet obviously as well, but Chase Claypool, whoever bring in through the draft, and maybe even trade for a wide receiver. But having him in the rotation would be a great piece. Just put him on the outside, let him burn people, catch deep passes. He can go up and get it as well. And who knows, if he stays healthy, how much he develops in this offense, but would be a great weapon. We need to stack weapons for Justin Fields, and DJ Chark is my number one in this year's free agency class. Moving on to the next guy that I want to talk about today, which is a guy that just broke out last season, which is Paris Campbell, formerly known for the Indianapolis Colts. And in Paris Campbell, one of the more attractive wide receivers hits the open market, or potentially hits the open market at 6 foot, 208 pounds. He was a former second-round pick in 2019 and ran a blazing fast low 4.3, I think. So once again, a guy with tons and tons of speed. Problem with Paris Campbell was for his entire career just being healthy, right? Hasn't played a full season up until actually last season, so he was finally able to put together a nice and good overall season, which was great to see because it will obviously have so much more for his value in this free agency class. He's still only 25 years old, but will turn 26 in July, so he will be 26 during the season, but that's still a great age for a guy coming off of a career season, and I think he has lots and lots of more potential even in him as well. For the stats in 2022, he played 16 games overall, or started 16 games and played in 17 games, had 63 receptions, 623 yards, 9.9 yards per reception, and 3 touchdowns. Longest one was a 49-yard reception, and overall had a catch percentage of slightly under 70%. Sure-handed guy, can take the top of the defense, but also has very good routes in him, like his route running is really good. And I think he can get open all the time, actually. So Paris Campbell, for me, one of my favorite receiving options in this year's free agency class. Now, when we look at his projected contract, they say probably $2.5 million annually. Once again, getting that from SpotRec, and they said a 1-year $2.5 million contract could be the price for him in this year's free agency, and I agree. I mean, the guy had injuries throughout his career, had now a very solid season as a wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts, but obviously you don't want to overpay him because of the injury risk, because he could have never stayed healthy. But if he does so, that's a very low risk target there for the Chicago Bears to go after, who could be a contributor right away in this offense, right? Brings lots of explosiveness and good hands with him. Would be a very good wide receiver to get for the Bears in this free agency. And honestly, I want the Bears to stack as many receivers as they possibly can. Right now, we got 4 under contract with Mooney, Claypool, EQ St. Brown, and then Velus Jones Jr. So bring in Paris Campbell, bring in DJ Chark, draft some more, and maybe then you have to cut a guy like EQ or someone else than in training camp. But Paris Campbell will be a very low risk signing for the Chicago Bears that could really help Justin Fields to develop in year 3 immediately. And with Paris Campbell, we want to move on to the third guy that I have on the list today, which is a very underrated player in Olamide Zacchaeus, formerly known for the Atlanta Falcons. And with Zacchaeus, we got a very interesting player again on the board today. One of the more underrated free agent targets there are overall in this free agency. He stands at 5'8", so definitely a smaller player, 193 pounds, and is still only 25 years old. Same with Paris Campbell. He will turn 26 in July, so there you have that, but still very young player. And at 5'8", I thought he did a very good job for Atlanta, playing both sides, right? Outside receiver and slot receiver, so a player that you can use in certain situations, in different situations. He also was used in lots of jet sweeps, getting the ball into his hands, and just a very shifty player overall. But the guy played very well for them, especially in 2022, which was somewhat his breakout season. Played in 17 games, started 13 of those, had 61 targets, 40 receptions, 533 yards, 13.3 yards per reception, and 3 touchdowns overall on this season. And that's a very productive season considering they have Drake London, they have Kyle Pitts, they have Cordero Patterson, who's a very passing game, heavily used running back as well. So he was in a pretty talented receiving or skill position group there in Atlanta. And then considering his quarterback situation makes his yardage even more impressive to me. Zacchaeus is a guy that definitely earned some money during last season and should be a guy that you could go after in free agency. And for his projected contract, we're talking about a guy who's about to make probably $3.7 million average according to Spotrac, and they project a contract of 2 years, $7.5 million. I think you want to up that a bit. Just once again, same reason, because the free agency class this year is just not that good. But also Zacchaeus is a very good player that showed out last season for the Falcons and could be a very explosive weapon on a Bears team that desperately needs some playmakers on the team. Talking about somewhat of a Tariq Cohen type of role. Obviously not in the backfield, but as a receiver, just get the ball in there fast and he can make some people miss, but also pretty damn good route runner and understands the zones as well, what I saw so far. So Olamide Zacchaeus, very attractive wide receiver in this very limited free agency class as well. Would love the Bears to pursue him and get him under contract as soon as possible. And with that being said, those were my 3 younger options that we could potentially pursue in free agency. And I want to move on to the first veteran option that I want to talk about today, which is Robert Woods, who's played for the Tennessee Titans. And with Robert Woods, we're talking about a very experienced wide receiver in this league. Is now 30 years old and will turn 31 in April. So definitely a veteran wide receiver right there. And he played for the Titans last year, had some struggles with some drops and some issues catching the football. But Robert Woods, very productive wide receiver in this league, stands at 6 foot, 195 pounds. Great blocker, guy that does all the dirty work, gets all the hard-fought yards right in the slot at the outside position, wherever you want to put him. Still was pretty productive last year, had 53 catches, 527 yards, 2 touchdowns. But talking about his glory days for the Rams, 2018, 1,219 yards, 1,134 yards, and was even still productive in 2021 for the Rams as well. In only 9 games, he caught 556 yards and 4 touchdowns after being injured. So obviously, there's probably some production drop from that season, and obviously the season last year with Tennessee is also very different offense, so I think it depends on how you use Robert Woods. But overall, he has crazy good hands, really crafty route runner, short area quickness is amazing, and it would be a great addition for the Chicago Bears offense for 1 or 2 years to just get Justin Fields a security blanket, a guy that he can truly trust on every single down to go to. Just look at him, throw it in there, and he will probably come up with the football. So Robert Woods would actually not be that bad of an addition to any offense in the NFL, and the Bears definitely need some veteran receivers that can help those younger receivers to develop as well. So Robert Woods definitely an interesting guy to look at. As for his projection, I haven't found something in the internet, but I think we're talking about a probably 1-year deal of about 10 to 12 million, maybe even less after that. Pretty, not disappointing, but it was not that much of a productive season for the Titans last year, so maybe even 1 year, 8 million, or 2 years, 60 million, whatever it is. So I would definitely throw that at Robert Woods, see what he wants, maybe giving him even a bit more money because we got so much left this year, but it would be a great just overall receiving weapon to add to that receiving core, who desperately needs, like I said, first of all, experience, and second of all, a security blanket for Justin Fields that he can trust on every single down. And with that being said, we want to move on to the last player that I want to talk about today, which is Marvin Jones, formerly known for the Detroit Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it looks like Marvin Jones is hitting the free agency at 6'2", 199 pounds, and now entering the season as a 33-year-old wide receiver. He's definitely one of the now probably lesser attractive options in free agency. But Marvin Jones was always a receiver that fascinated me, was super productive all his years wherever he was. Like at Cincinnati, he was pretty good. Then went to Detroit, got his first 1,000-yard season, which was amazing. Always looked really good for Detroit in the red zone. Had 3 9-touchdown seasons there, so love that about him. And I think Marvin Jones, for me, honestly, even though he will be 33, can still be a guy that can give you 600 yards probably in your offense for sure, and probably 5 touchdowns or whatever. But the guy has great body control. He can go up and get it. Great possession wide receiver, still has good amount of speed, and obviously probably won't be re-signed by the Jacksonville Jaguars because they got some good players like Zay Jones or now Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, whoever they have some good weapons. So I think Marvin Jones is definitely not on the list for them to extend. So it will be a very attractive wide receiver veteran option that you can add. Same with Robert Woods here. Just add a player that has experience, knows how to do it, and you get him in the wide receiver room. He can teach up some younger guys, but still be on the field and be very productive. As for his spot track projection, he's projected to get a 2-year, $6.9 million deal, so right around 2 years, $7 million, which is about $3.5 million per year. And I could definitely see that. He's 33 now, maybe a bit more than that, but I think overall that would be actually not that bad of a deal for the Chicago Bears. Maybe just like turn it like that you can get rid of him after one season if he performs terribly. But low risk here with Marvin Jones. Get help for the moment, which is important as well. Obviously want long-term options. That's why probably DJ Chark or Olamide Zacchaeus or Paris Campbell are more attractive to some guys here, but free agency this year is not that great. So Marvin Jones is definitely an underrated wide receiver that the Bears could pick up that would make the offense better immediately. And with that being said, that finishes off my 5 wide receivers in free agency that the Chicago Bears should look out for and that I'm pretty excited about or would be pretty excited about if the Bears sign them. Definitely let me know in the comments down below what you think of those 5 wide receiver options, and definitely let me know some other wide receivers that you like in this year's free agency, as well. Obviously couldn't include all of them because I want to keep those episodes a bit shorter so I can talk about more like players in depth. So today, 5 wide receivers that we talked about. And yeah, guys, with that being said, that's the end of the episode, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Definitely, like I said, let me know in the comments down below what you think. Like and subscribe if you liked the video. Check out Instagram and Twitter if you want to as well. And as always, guys, bear down.